I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. Here to help you get them back. You may be soft or succulent at the beginning of this process. It's okay. Hang in there. Before long, you'll be lean and mean. That's a guarantee. Now let's get a little almond brothers in there. Yeah, tied to a whipping post. Yeah. Yeah, everything reminds me of music. And let me bring you. How you doing, Miss Gina?
I'm good. I'm curious as to how this is going to tie into what was going on in your brain.
Well, we were talking about relationships and the whole thing, and and how lucky we are in relationships. But a lot of times in life, you feel like you're tied to a whipping post, and
True.
And we were talking about that. It's a weird thing. Serena was in here because I was finishing up videos with Serena. Folks, you might want to go check out my YouTube channel because we're doing big time over there. We're starting to do actual meaning. I always thought, oh, you just throw shit up here. People either see it or you don't.
Right.
But I went, you know what? How about I just use this the way it should be used and actually give people something they can go see on the Instagram, not the Instagram, the YouTube.
The YouTube.
Because I saw my Instagram, I had 0 people and then I had 20,000. Now I have like 85,000 or something like that.
Nice.
So it seems to keep going. So people are liking the videos. And wait a minute, maybe I could do actual mini podcast, but just do specific lists. Here are the 10 things you need to eat to be healthy. Here are the 5 exercises you need to do. And there's, these listicles, people like them and it gives them something to go with.
It's great.
So I decided to start doing that. That's why Gina was like, wait, you always have these funky t-shirts on.
Yeah.
As Serena was in here, she doesn't make me do anything, but I wear these shirts and we shoot these videos and they're more pointed now than ever before. So you can go check out my YouTube channel, Vinnie Tortorich YouTube. You'll see it up there and you'll see the new videos where I'm giving you guys some really great information. But that led Gina and me off the air. We should have just had the tape rolling, right?
Yeah, Gina? I thought about that and I was like, oh, maybe this is a private convo. But you're a very open guy, so yeah.
But Serena was in here, so Gina and Serena were having a little girl talk.
Oh.
And then I just started telling Gina off the mic. It's like, yeah, I was at my lowest point. And I'm saying this for a reason, folks, because a lot of times you're 400 or 500 pounds, your doctor wants to have you on 12 medications, you're already on 9. And your fatty liver disease, they're talking about neuropathy and chopping off a toe or a foot or an ankle. They can't just chop your ankle off. They're taking your foot and your toe with it. Mm. But I think people knew that because we had a song when I was a kid, the foot bone's connected
to the ankle bone.
Ankle bone's connected to the shin bone. That's how I learned anatomy in college. At any rate, people could be at their lowest point. And I was telling Gina the story of my lowest point.
Yeah.
Literally in my whole life. It was the impetus of writing Fitness Confidential. It was just, the whole idea was just to get these things out of my head and I put them on paper and it became this mega successful book. And if you're new to the show, you can go pick it up. It's still on Amazon. You can get it Audible and all that, Fitness Confidential, the book. And we were just running through it. And I really did sometimes feel like I was tied to a whipping post at some point. And Gina, I know you just went through it. You went through it with your dad.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of COVID.
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible.
And you just think, when's it going to end?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like in your story, everyone has their inconveniences and everyone has their disappointments. But when you throw in a major health scare / health battle, and then a major economic devastation. I mean, these are real life changers.
Yeah. Yeah. And Serena mentioned to Gina, she goes, yeah, when I met Vinnie, he was living in one of his clients' pool houses.
Yeah.
That was a fact. My next door neighbor was Candace Bergen. I was living in one of those neighborhoods. I became friends, not real friends, but just down the street, hey, buddy, friends with Ziggy Marley. You may have heard of these names, Ellen and Portia.
DeGeneres and DeRossi?
Yeah, they lived right down the street. That was the street I lived on in Beverly Hills, except they were all rich. I was broke.
Yeah.
I was living in a client's pool house. And I didn't ask. She offered. She was a close friend of mine. And she said, look, I don't want to, I know you don't believe in handouts or whatever. And I said, okay, but I can't charge you for training.
Sure.
And she said, okay. And she refused to stop paying me.
Oh my God.
And so I did everything I could around that house to, whatever I could, whenever anything needed to be, I did it.
Yeah.
I did. Of course, she had, lawn people and pool people, and she had a full staff in the house and all that kind of stuff. But anything I could do.
You were the Schneider from One Day at a Time.
Pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much tool belt, mustache,
Sure.
cigarettes
Denim,
on my sleeve.
Yep. Denim vest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Schneider. By the way, when I was a kid, I thought Schneider was so cool. Is that weird?
Very.
Because he was kind of cool. He was like, hey, I want to be with Mrs.
Romano.
Mrs. Romano, she didn't look at, but I actually ended up meeting that woman several times.
Really? Of
Yeah,
course
she
you
was
did.
good friends with one of my clients.
Of course she was.
I'm going to tell you, there was a group. It was her. It was Mary Tyler Moore and 2 or 3 other people who knew this client of mine. And they were kind of the house of misfit toys that would get together for Thanksgiving every year.
Oh my
It was a ragtag group of famous people that got together that didn't have any other family. They became this dysfunctional family at Thanksgiving.
I love that.
And most of them were famous.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
That's awesome.
I used to get invited to that.
With Mary Tyler Moore?
Yeah, it was like, oh my God, I would be sitting there going, when I was a kid, I thought she was the most gorgeous woman on the planet and still did.
Yeah.
It was like, there's certain celebrities where you go, that's, do you know who you are? Like,
you're not supposed to be breathing the same air as they are.
Yeah, you were in Minnesota, you threw a hat in the air. That's
Rob. Yeah, she's done it all.
Mr. Grad. I can't even do it, but I could tell you every show. I watched every show.
Yeah.
You know who else was on that show?
Who? Oh, I can I say it?
Go on.
Betty White.
She was one. That show was full of famous people. Name 2 more.
Ed Asner.
Well, Ed Asner was known for that show, but
Right.
there were 2 other bigger names on that show.
Rhoda? I don't know.
Well, Rhoda, that's another one.
Who else?
Gavin MacLeod on that show.
Oh my God.
The writer that sat right next to Murr. He called him instead of Mary. Murr. And
yeah, it scares me when you see they do like a side by side with like Paul Rudd and Wilford Brimley. And it said 50 looks very different on these men. And they did that with Ed Asner, and he was supposed to be like 40.
Yeah. Ed Asner, I thought was a really old guy in that show.
Yeah.
He was like 38.
Yeah.
The other famous person, Ted Knight.
I couldn't think of his name. Ted Knight is who I think of when I think of that show.
Yeah. And the show was just full of, like, a lot of times they brought in Catskill comedian, style actors, like Rhoda's mom, that came onto the show. That show was loaded with talent from back in those days.
Yeah.
One of the funniest shows ever. And if you watch it, I was like 10. That show came on like 1970, 71. So I was like 8, 9 years old. We loved that show as a kid. We watched it all. It was on for like 8 years.
Yeah.
The stuff they were talking about in 1970 and 71 and 72, almost identical to now. It's like the politics, the whole thing. Like they wanted to invite Rhoda. Rhoda got invited to a country club because the guy didn't realize she was Jewish.
Right.
And it was a problem.
Oh.
That kind of stuff that we were talking about that in sitcoms in 1970, anti-Semitic stuff.
Yeah, that, you think of All in the Family and, all the racial stuff and the gender stuff. It's everything old is new again. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other guy that was on that show that went on to be on another sitcom that had a lot of political stuff in it. I want to say his name is Amos, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, from Good Times?
Yeah. Yeah. The father.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Amos? Is that his
John?
name?
I think so. Did you know what's going on with him right now, by the way?
No.
He's in the headlines because they've accused his daughter of elder abuse and he's not doing well.
Oh
So
no.
now that it's a big story, hopefully something could be done.
Oh God.
Yeah. Same thing happened with, didn't the same thing happen with Uhuru?
A horror?
Uhura. Uhura
I
from
don't
Star
know.
Trek. Yeah.
Yeah,
Michelle
you see the news all the you
yeah,
see the news.
I
I don't.
yeah. So yeah, gotta I mean, it's so interesting because it's like obviously like child abuse, those people should lock them away and throw away the key. But when you hear about elder abuse, that's something I could go over and like slit your throat over. Like that is just horrible.
You know the one. Speaking of that, in the fitness world, Simmons, Richard Simmons.
Yep. Oh
There was
yeah.
some version of that. Do we know if he's okay or?
Nobody knows. The whole rumor was that his housekeeper, like, top confidant and housekeeper, was sort of keeping him inside and making him a shut in. And he says, no, 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 I promise that's not true. But that suddenly out of nowhere, he just wants nothing to do with society. This was a man that I was taking his Richard Simmons aerobics class every Saturday because it was the most fun I ever had.
Yeah.
And he just disappeared and is just gone. And he loved to go out and greet the tour buses that would, go by, famous people's houses. And now he's just gone.
Richard was, I'm a fan. I used to
Same.
goof on him all the time. Back when I used to do a little comedy routine on stage, I did a whole thing on Richard.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, that was one of I could do 5 minutes on Richard.
But I imagine it comes from a place. First of all, he's a Louisiana boy,
Yeah,
but
he's from New Orleans.
I imagine it comes from a place of a moderate amount of respect because he got fitness on the map for people who said, well, that's clearly no one's talking to me. I'm 400-500 pounds.
Yeah, total respect.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect. All the guy ever wanted to do was really help people. And one of the things I oddly followed, even though not even though the fact that we're both from New Orleans, that's not the only, I followed in his footsteps. And I've talked about it on this show many times. Richard Simmons owned his name all the way through. He never had to sell his name to Guthrie Rink or anything.
Right.
And that's one of the things I followed. Of course, Richard is worth more than Jesus Christ himself. And I'm not, but I got to keep my name. And that's something I almost gave up a few times, but
Sure.
got to keep my name.
Well, and as you know, he didn't start out that way. He's just some poor, fat, I think, Jewish kid with nothing.
Yeah.
And then he became, synonymous with fitness. And I'll never forget in his class, it was just him being nuts, and we're dancing and we're sweating. He's wearing Swarovski crystal tank tops and he has costumes. It's just crazy. And whenever you'd look down, instead of looking up, he'd say, don't look down. There are no cookies down there.
Yeah.
But his big thing was women would come who just loved him, who physically could hardly stand up. And there were chairs lining the back of the studio so that they could just move their arms and legs because they were so heavy and it just wouldn't work for them to do the class. Talk about a come one, come all environment. It was incredible.
Yeah. No, and people always say, what do you think about Richard Simmons? Like, yeah, like he sold out a few times with Deal a Meal and this and that.
Cruise to Lose.
Yeah, I'm okay with all that because he was trying to push something forward.
Yes.
And I have respect for guys like that. And Richard did not start off as a fitness expert. As a matter of fact, Richard knew very little about health and fitness. He was a fat kid who was in love with soap operas. I don't think people know his true story. And he wanted to be on a soap opera in the worst way and literally moved to LA with a single purpose to being on a soap. Gina, I want you to look this up. I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. He just always wanted to be on a soap opera. But, he was this fat guy who was, just louder than life itself, louder than the T-shirt I have on right now.
Yes.
And so they said, you can come on this. He had lost a bunch of weight or something. And they said, we need someone to play like an over-the-top fitness guy on this show. And they brought him on.
I think it was General Hospital.
I don't know which one it was. I don't know much about it.
I'm looking right now.
The only thing I know about General Hospital is one of my biggest clients ever, Jeannie Francis, was General Hospital.
I've done so many under fives on General Hospital. You're right. It says Fame Fitness. This is from soaps.sheknows.com. Famed fitness fanatic Richard Simmons is headed back to Port Charles for a visit. The weight loss magnate played himself on the soap from 1979 to 1983. So that must be what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he took that and went with it.
Yeah.
I actually know the guy who took it and said, "Hey, we can take this show on the road, this fitness thing," and that's what they did.
Wow. And that's the other thing. It's like our world in some ways is so much better now. And in some ways, it's like we stumbled because him being so flamboyant and, just so full of, fierceness, that was, yes, people made fun, but it seemed, maybe I'm looking at this backwards with rose colored glasses. It seemed like overall it was generally in good spirits. It wasn't like, well, I don't listen to gays or I don't, it was just, he was just his flamboyant self and everyone just kind of accepted him for being this over the top guy.
He never talked about being gay. He was kind of Liberace about it.
Yeah, yeah.
That old world gay where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I just haven't found the right woman yet, gay.
Right.
So because my grandmother always wondered why Liberace never got married. Like,
yeah, such a handsome fella.
yeah, she's like, he's so talented and so good looking.
He
And
just
it's
hasn't
like,
met that special someone.
Grandma, a guy with that many candelabras they don't find wives. I don't know how to explain this to you.
Oh my
But,
God.
but no, Richard, as a matter of fact, wow, full circle. Remember that class of misfits I talked about?
Yep.
Okay. The manager who got Richard started and kind of like the Colonel, who's the guy that
Tom Parker.
Tom Park, he was the one that got Richard, managed his career and got him out of the soap operas and made him Richard Simmons.
Wow.
He was one of the guys that would come to that famous Thanksgiving dinner, right?
We did it, Vinny. Actually, you did it.
Yeah.
We went all the way back around.
And here's the deal. I asked him one time, I said, look, Guthrie Rinker wants me to do this and that. They always want me to sell the sizzle and not the steak. And right. I can't come to terms with these people. And I was right there, Gina, so many times, so many people that were in my position would have just they would have gone, fuck it.
Yeah, take it all.
I'm just going to take a deal.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm tired of, and I just kept stupidly sticking to my guns. And I even said to the guy, I said, why can't you take me and do what you did to Richard? And he said, because it would never work again. It was this guy, right place, right time. He
lightning in a bottle.
Lightning in a bottle. He was on that soap opera. You're not known. You're known around Hollywood as this best kept secret. He was on television. He already had an audience.
That, and there was the shiny gimmick to him. He was in the dolphin shorts. He was a little teeny tiny, ball of energy. You're right. It was just right place, right time.
He was the only person I knew that had a combo muscle shirt muumuu. He invented muumuu.
Yes, you're right. Those very blousy muscle shirts.
Yeah. It was muscly on the top because he had somehow had a little pecs on him or something.
Yeah.
Then it bloused out into a muumuu, right? And then off the end of that, you would see about 2 inches of dolphin shorts.
Yes. Oh, just peeking out the bottom.
Yeah.
And he was quite prone to crying. And I always thought, oh, please come on Letterman and on whatever. Oh, stop. Well, I can tell you, because he would give like a little motivational speech at the end of every Slimmons aerobics class, and there were always tears. So it just it was like sort of a Pavlovian response, or he's which I can see, such a deeply feeling individual. That's just what happens. It just does. And I'll never forget, it was election night. How many elections ago? My God. And I remember we all had to grab a mat and sit on the mat so he could give his speech. And he told us how we all need to be the president of our own hopes and dreams, and started crying.
Wow. Well, part of my comedy routine was talking about how Richard would get together with women and cry over a piece of pie. They would just eat a piece of, because he would always talk to women. You see it in the infomercials. And it's like, Richard, I had pie, and they would start crying. It's like,
yes.
No one cries over pie. It's like, there's no crying in baseball. There's no yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
No one cries over pie.
Yeah.
What are you doing? But
you're right.
Yeah.
He so deeply wanted to relate and connect. And I just think that little kid in him was always there. What I remember growing up in the, mid 80s was him being a special guest on Donahue, Maury, whoever, with these morbidly obese. I mean, I don't know how the scales change, but it's, people who, I don't know, are like mid-size are considered morbidly obese. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm talking what we all think of. And he would sit next to their hospital bed or whatever they were in at home and just rub their legs. And I remember him always saying, you have so much water weight. The first thing we need to do is like drain your legs. And I was like, is that true? Vinny, is that true?
Well, then, of course, if you got off of seed oils, sugars, and grains, then you get the whoosh.
Right.
The whoosh of you lose. And so he's not wrong, but you're not going to massage. You're not going to massage.
Yeah.
But he really, we're talking about him like he's dead, but
I know it's hard because he's just not around.
He's not around. He really cared about people.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand that Richard, as a famous man with hundreds of millions of dollars, would still do the mall tour through America.
Yes.
Westwood malls, Westerfield malls around the country. And
yes.
It could be 10 people crowding around. It could be 200 people crowding around. He cared. And that's why when people go, Richard Simmons, what do you think? Go. It's like, I know he cared because any guy who had the money he had, it could have stopped. He didn't have to be in a class with Gina Grad.
No, on early Saturday mornings.
Yeah, he didn't have to be there. He had all the money. He didn't have to work anymore. He still went mall hopping and talked to whoever would listen. And you can't not respect a guy like that.
Absolutely. And for anyone who thinks I'm telling tales out of school, especially if you're watching this online, which I hope you are, this is one of the many pictures I have with Richard Simmons. It's a little blurry, but that is me and Richard, because after class, you could line up and he would take pictures, and he'd always have, sometimes he put on a big feather boa or masks or costumes. And there was always, the line lasted longer than the class. And we always took pictures because who wouldn't want a picture with Richard?
Gina, can I use your picture in my Throwback Thursday?
Absolutely. I'm sending it to you right now.
When this episode comes out, the Richard Simmons episode, we didn't plan to talk about
it.
We just got on it. Send me that, and I will put you in my Throwback Thursday when it comes out in about 2 or 3 weeks. I can put that up because that picture is worth something. And by the way, hold it up again. Did he have the muumuu? Did he have the
No, he was here. I'll show you. He was in this particular one. He was in sort of a singlet.
Oh, so
he had lots of different outfits.
When you get old enough, and my hero Jack LaLanne did the same thing. You end up in a onesie. I don't know. I'm sure we'll know that I'm done when I show up in a onesie because it's coming.
I can't wait. Although coming. you could rock a onesie because I've seen you without a shirt. Now I've seen you without a shirt then, and I think bust out the singlet while things are still where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, we should talk about this in the next show.
Okay.
All right, Gina, write this down. We're going to produce on the fly here. Folks, listen in next week when we're going to talk about the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Frank Zane.
Ooh.
And all of these guys. Throw Stallone in there.
I've never heard of Frank Zane.
Oh, we're going to talk about Frank Zane, my favorite bodybuilder.
Okay, I'm writing it
down.
Talk
about Mr. Zane. So we're going to talk about these guys and what they look like now, and we're going to go with that because people ask me all the time about different things. We're going to get into a whole conversation.
I can't wait. I just want to, since we're producing on the fly, and as our buddy Tim Conway Jr. says, this is way too uncomfortable, so I have to do it when the mics are hot. There is a question that I think I know there's tons of people on Facebook because I'm in these groups, and I need to know, will you please settle a debate about how much protein you're supposed to have in a day? Because my head's swimming between what my mom thinks and what everyone on Facebook thinks and what the calculators, these diet calculators think. I need a definitive answer, or I don't know what I'm going to do.
Okay. It's, there's a whole bro science thing. So I'm going to address the bro science and try to work around it.
Thank you.
The correct answer is there is no set amount. It depends on several factors. And we're going to get to that in a second.
Great.
So the bro science guys will say anything, they'll say 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass.
Okay.
Some will say 1.5 grams per pound of lean body mass. Some will say upwards of 2 grams per pound of lean body mass. Well, the first thing you would have to get to is what's lean body mass?
I just went to that. I just tried to find a lean body mass calculator.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you an example. I weigh probably 170 to 175 pounds right now as I sit today. You've seen me without a shirt on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty lean,
Oh yeah.
right? So what do you think my lean body mass would be?
I mean, like in percentage, I
How,
don't know.
no, not
I don't
percent.
even know how it's calculated.
I just want, no, not percentage.
You mean how many pounds of lean body
How,
mass
how
pound
much,
wise?
how many pounds of fat do you think you could take away? You've
I
seen
see.
my body.
Yo, there's no fat.
There's no fat.
There's no fat.
So if I was down to my lean body mass,
So
how many pounds of fat would we have to subtract from a 175-pound man?
5, 10? I mean, there's nothing. I've seen it. 10, I'll say. I don't know. I don't know how you could get leaner.
Probably 25 pounds.
What? Stop.
Yeah. All right. So first thing you have to consider is when people go, dude, I know a dude with like 3% body fat. I can pull that off right now. If someone did the calipers on me, you know, when they pinch.
Yeah, the pinchers from gym class.
Yeah, the calipers.
Uh-huh.
They'll probably show me at 4.5 right now. Right. And you go, that dude's at 4. Okay. If I got on a DEXA scan, which scans your whole body,
right,
and actually show, oh, your right bicep has this much more, muscle versus, bone.
right.
It shows everything, right? It's your whole body. That's the gold standard, right? That would show that I probably right now have probably 12, 13% body fat. So let's call it 13. Now a caliper would show me at 3.
Huh.
Let's call it 12. What's 12% of 175? Do that math.
Please. Calculating.
You're about 22, 23 pounds.
Okay. Well, you know better than I do.
I'm just doing it in my head.
Of course you are. 15.
It can't be 15.
This is a devil's box and I don't want to use it. This calculator.
Okay, 10% of 175 is what?
17. 17 and a half.
Right. And then 7%. I mean,
I hate this game.
2 more percent of 175.
15.
4. That's how I came up with 21, 22.
Okay. I was going to say, I feel like my kid who I'm always yelling at about.
Yeah. I said 25 pounds of body.
Yeah.
That's about right. I figured 12%.
And just as a side note, when I was going through my breast reduction surgery for insurance, this scale must be so off.
Oh, it's not even close.
Because they are looking for reasons, obviously. And everyone who has ever run into insurance knows they're always looking for a reason not to insure you or pay for something. And they're like, oh, sorry, you're this. And I remember when we were talking about BMI one time, and Vinnie, you told me, like, I'm not 2% body fat, I'm 12 or 13. And I go, well, then you wouldn't qualify. It's crazy.
Right. You see, the truth, like if you had called me and told me that they were looking at body mass index, I would have said, oh, go find a guy in Beverly Hills that has a DEXA scan machine, get the true number, and they would sign off on that. I didn't know that, Gina. I could have helped.
I was lucky because it took very little convincing because of my size, as you I'm sure recall, of my breast size, that, you know what, they really didn't give me much of a problem. But I knew that I was told by the doctors, you're going to be in an uphill battle. I've tried with these insurance companies. This is why we don't even use insurance, blah, 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 blah. But I, thank God, was big enough where they said, you know what, she clearly needs this.
Yeah, you had your own gravitational pull.
I really did. It's pulling things into my own orbit. And now it's funny because, you know what people say to me now, I'll wear something sort of tight or form-fitted. They go, that's the after? I was like, oh, honey, this is the after. Yeah. So, I'm not exactly making walls jealous at this point. I'm still quite voluptuous and curvy, as you saw in that picture that you said.
And I even asked why. I said, why couldn't they take more? And you said, because they can only take a certain amount.
You'll lose your nipples.
Yeah.
It's the very quick and dirty version. And I'm not a doctor, but the way it was explained to me is, in order to do a breast reduction, you have to cut, I don't know, there's maybe 4 blood ventricles to the nipple, and you have to sever a few of them. And if you keep severing because you need to take out more, you lose your nipples. So this was the safe amount, and I'm very happy with it, but people are surprised when I say this is what it looks like after.
Well, here's my concern, because, and I don't want to get grotesque, and if it's too far, we could cut this.
Oh, I'll tell you anything.
Okay. In 1 year, you went from like an double H to like a double K or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was pretty far down in the alphabet.
Yeah. You were getting closer to Z than you were to A.
Yeah.
So my question is, now that you've had the thing done, is it growing still? Because you had the incredible growing breast.
I did. And a lot, and it has a medical name and I can't remember. It's something horrible like ginormousism or something. But I'm not sure. I'll tell you this, that when right after surgery, you're sewn in. So your boobs are like up to your chin. You're like, oh, you look like a fembot. And it's been a year. And now all those stitches have dissolved. So they're sort of lower and where they're supposed to be. It's called fluffing. They've fluffed to where they're supposed to be. So I can't tell if they've gotten bigger or if they just rounded out. But I am conscious of that, especially with my, the way I eat and my, very really focused right now on my health and leaning down again. My biggest nightmare is that my boobs just grow back, and that's possible for sure. It's fat, so I gain in my boobs.
Yeah, it's and guys, look, the whole world wept when Gina took the eighth natural wonder of the world away. But
it's better.
Gina and I talked about it a lot. It was causing all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Health was in jeopardy.
It was, and not just my physical health, which was my mental health was. I was just really unhappy. It takes a toll on you when you're not a very big person. Like you said, I kind of have just like a small frame and kind of just whatever. And you can't zip anything. And you go, well, there's something wrong with me. And I'm just too big. And what's the point? And it was not great. But then you saw this picture of me from the other night.
Oh yeah, I commented. I wrote to you privately, and you're married. What you doing later?
Now I'm going to be very candid with you, and I always am, even though this is anyone can hear this. I generally wouldn't call attention to this, but either off the air or on the air, maybe we could chat, because I don't know if you notice in this picture next to my stomach, it's gathered because there's extra fabric and there has nowhere to go. The middle is still pretty stretched across. And I'm wondering, as much as I'm NSNGing, I'm like, you know what, maybe I just live with the belly now. I don't know if that's going to be the last to go again.
No, it just takes a long time.
It does.
It does. Think about when you were really going at it for your when you had Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
So just keep Eye of the Tiger.
I will. And I will always, this is also just me being me and being in effort mode. I didn't even wear heels to my wedding. Do you know that I didn't even wear Spanx? I had no shapewear under my dress. I was naked under my dress. No shapewear, no Spanx, no nothing. I was just like, I've lost a bunch of weight. I feel really good. Why should I suck myself into this thing all night? I'm just going to be comfortable.
You know what? You look comfortable. You looked great on your wedding
night.
I can tell you for a fact you weren't heavy, because I was on one of the four legs of that chair. Me and that's right, very bicep-driven Dr. Drew.
That's right. And unfortunately, those chairs were very heavy. Those big wrought iron chairs.
Yeah. As soon as a bunch of Jews gathered around you, I looked at Drew and I went, Drew, let's get over there. They're going to drop this woman. And so we shored up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
got it rocking and rolling.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to take us on that scenic adventure, but I'm glad we did.
No, look, I'm glad we had this kind of show. We talked about one of the great, an unsung hero.
Yeah. Fitness guru.
Yeah. And, people I used to tell people, say, oh yeah, I'm jealous of him. I don't know how in the hell he did what he did. He doesn't know anything about health and fitness, but he's helped more people through his motivation. And when I really understood what he was doing, when I knew this guy, because I knew people who knew him from the Misfit,
Thanksgiving.
I knew, it was like, wait, this guy's worth what? I knew what he was worth.
Oh boy.
It's like, why? And he's doing balls around the net. He's like, yeah. And I went, you know what? I'm not jealous of him anymore. I want to become him.
Yes.
I want to be more like him.
Yes.
It's not about the money. It's about helping people. And of course, that didn't come around until after, cancer and everything else, when I looked around and went, you know what? I really need to be more like Richard and just go out there and help people.
Yeah. And don't exclude anyone. He was the one who said, the bigger you are, the more I want to help you, not you don't belong here.
Yeah. And boy, he did do that. You could find Gina Grad on a show called The Brian and Gina Show. And by the way, I'm a listener, and you guys only do 2 a week.
2 a week.
So I have to save them up, because lately I've been hiking 6, 7, 8 hours on a Saturday and 2 or 3 on Sunday, because I'm getting ready to climb. So I need stuff, right? And I save you for the weekend. You're saved along with Mike Rowe, you, Mike Rowe. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been having a ball. And it truly, if you've been listening, it has motivated me so much to get out of the house and enjoy the city. As much as it's like talking crap on your sibling. There's still I don't like when other people do it because there's still so much beauty and awesome stuff to do in LA. And I've been getting out and enjoying it. And actually, on the next show, I do want to mention one thing that I want to ask if you've ever done it, because I did it last Friday and it was amazing.
Tune in next week. We're going to talk about what happened to some of my favorite bodybuilders. And Gina is going to hit me with the question.
Yep.
You know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com. Click through the banner. It puts a little coal on the fire. It gets my train down the track. I'm able to keep this show free for a gazillion years in a row. We have the ebook over there. Everyone loves the ebook. Go check out my YouTube channel. Oh, rate and review this, folks. Rate and review it. I noticed that we have like a 4.8 or something on reviews. I just noticed that the other day. And I went, oh, wow. People really like us. Well, keep liking us and let us know. On behalf of Miss Gina Grad, put life into living and do it with a little group called Survivor.